6 questions and my 6 answers around negotiation strategy versus tactics. Now, these questions were submitted to me by Paul Watts of the Sales Reinvented Podcast, and this is a series that he's doing on negotiation strategy and tactics for sales professionals. And if you want to know more about the podcast, check it out here. All right, so the first question that he asked was, what was a pivotal moment in my career that shaped my approach to negotiation, and how did it influence strategy and tactics that I use? So my approach to negotiation was really shaped by my legal training and experience and my career as a trial lawyer for the first 10 years of my legal career. And that was until I took a course, a mediation course, at the University of Washington. Now, that mediation course for lawyers and non-lawyers taught me how to move warring parties to middle ground and to reach an agreement that benefited them both. So now I embrace the full range of negotiation styles, from truly adversarial, which is necessary for a small percentage of situations, and the collaborative, which is necessary for supply chain negotiations. Question number 2, can you share a specific negotiation tactic that has consistently helped you close more deals effectively, and provide an example? So I write about this in all 4 of my books. Tactics must support the negotiation strategy. And I'm hired and I work with companies that deliberately ask for a cooperative, if not a collaborative, negotiation strategy. Therefore, I reframe inflammatory or positional statements to a more neutral statement. And that is incredibly important to reach agreements faster. Just last week, a young lawyer working for a Fortune 500 supplier told their Fortune 500 customer, my client, and the woman that I was mentoring, that the supplier's customer needed the supplier way more than the supplier needed the customer. Now, you can imagine how that was received. Now, I laughed because I thought, well, only a really young and arrogant attorney would ever say that, because if you've been through enough business cycles, oh my God, everybody needs everybody at some point in time, and nobody ever stays king of the hill for a very long time, with a very rare few exceptions. So I just thought that was really kind of funny. However, I needed to reframe that arrogance and that hubris so that the parties could work together and start moving towards an agreement. And, and I was able to. So what I said as part of my mentoring to the gal who is working with these folks directly is, listen, these 2 companies have been working together successfully for 40 years and not by taking really extreme positions. So I recommended the following, quote, the buying organization awarded the work to your company, supplier, precisely because your company, the supplier, has been a good partner for a very long time. And what I'm hearing is that your company would like to have a more shared risk approach to these legal terms and conditions, end quote. Okay, now that reframe helped the VP of Sales save face to allow her, the VP of Sales, to move forward in a more collaborative manner with my mentee. So that is an incredibly important tactic when things are adversarial, as they may very well be when you're working with attorneys. Now, I've got 32 years, so I've been through enough business cycles. I've been up, I've been down, I've been left, I've been right, I've been east and west, north and south. It doesn't really matter. I don't operate in any kind of positional stance because I very rarely ever have the support to take that kind of adversarial stance. But that's a great reframe if you're ever in that sort of situation. What is the most challenging negotiation you've ever faced, and what strategy or tactic helped you turn it into a win? Sole supplier negotiations in heavily regulated industries are super tricky. Most people misconstrue the sole supplier relationship. All right, so folks at the sole supplier may have a take it or leave it position, thinking that, well, the customer has no choice but to work with us, the sole supplier, and that's super corrosive. Now, buying organizations, on the other hand, treat the sole supplier like a team of wayward employees, not as a separate legal entity. And that's super corrosive because they actually are not your employee. They are an independent legal entity. So turning around these conversations requires acknowledgement that both companies are working together for a good cause, such as manufacturing high quality aviation equipment for commercial airlines. And keeping the focus on this purpose for the relationship will create more camaraderie and a more level playing ground on which to negotiate. So, for example, a gentleman went from a utility to the supplier's main location to negotiate for years and ever and a day. And I have been supporting this particular client for many years. They always, the buying organization always forced the supplier to come to them. And this time, the negotiator on behalf of the utility flew to the supplier, and he had a chance not only to meet leadership face to face on home turf with in their offices, but also tour some of the manufacturing facility, meet some of the folks that work on the account, not necessarily directly related to negotiations. And that human approach can really change the tone and tenor of what could be adversarial sole supplier negotiations. So I highly encourage you to take that human approach with sole supplier negotiations. I know I certainly have, and I've been very, very successful. In fact, with that very same supplier, about 2016, I was able to turn those negotiations around. Number 4, what are my top 3 must-have tools, frameworks, or resources that sales professionals like you should use to improve your negotiation skills? All right, so for complex and collaborative negotiations where the supplier and the customer must have a really good relationship, a cooperative relationship, I recommend these 3 tools. So number 1, I have a free ebook called 3 Critical Tools for the Contract Negotiator's Toolbox. This ebook offers you detailed guidance to incorporate better pricing, better metrics, and better governance into your next contract. So I really believe that if you need to have a more sophisticated approach to pricing, metrics, and governance in your next cooperative, if not collaborative, relationship, such as a sole supplier or an alliance or strategic partnership, that's a must-have. The second tool I recommend is my checklist for drafting a gain share agreement. Now you use this comprehensive checklist to develop a fair, robust, and profitable gain sharing agreement. The one caveat that I would say about gain sharing, and I love gain sharing agreements, and I developed this checklist for a client that I was mentoring several years ago, and it's been very successful for like at least the last 4 years. And I just checked in with him about 2 weeks ago on this particular deal, is that the buying organization has to be willing to pay out. That's just all there is to it. Like if there's going to be a gain share where there's any money that goes from the customer to the supplier for any reason, the buying company really needs to be able to buy out. The only problems that I have with gain sharing agreements are when customers get an unnatural windfall. Okay, and then finally, my book, Getting to We, Negotiating Agreements for Highly Collaborative Relationships, which is available on Amazon. The reason I recommend that over all four of my books is that if you really want to become a sophisticated negotiator around highly collaborative relationships, alliances, strategic partnerships, sole supplier agreements, where you want that collaborative relationship, that book will give you the foundation and then also some tips and tricks at the end of every chapter that you can directly apply. But it just takes your skill level to a whole nother level. 5, with buyer behaviors evolving and AI playing a larger role in sales, how do I see negotiation strategies and tactics changing in the future? And what should sales professionals do to stay ahead of the game? Okay. All right, AI. While AI can make writing emails and proposals a lot easier, AI has hallucinated in some really scary ways when it comes to the law. So in one recent case, artificial intelligence made up the law, like totally made it up, made up the case, made up the ruling, made up the citation. Ooh. Okay, and that can be super scary when it comes to negotiating a complex contract in a critical relationship. So I would not have AI have anything to do with your negotiations as it currently stands. Like it could make shit up. And do you really want to rely on a made up piece of information from artificial intelligence on, I don't know, $180 million deal? I know I don't. And I don't know anybody I know in leadership who does. So my thoughts are artificial intelligence are great for composing emails, especially because you can put in if you want a more collaborative, tone to your email. They're great in proposals and getting a lot of data that you can put into your proposals. They can also do an executive summary of the contract once it's been executed. And those executive summaries can really help people such as project managers and any other kind of customer facing support staff understand what this deal is all about. Now, I personally love the 4-hour page turn where we all make sure we're on the same page after the contract is executed, but I'm a nerd. So for the average bear, I would say you could use it to do an executive summary until we humans figure out a way for AI not to hallucinate and make up the law. I would not use AI in any part of negotiating because they could just make shit up. Okay, and number 6, what are some simple but powerful negotiation tactics that most people overlook? All right, I'm going to be completely honest with you because I sometimes, about 40 to 60% of the time, depending on years, sit on the procurement side and mentor procurement. Sometimes I sit on the sales side and mentor sales. All right, I got problems with procurement, but the problem I have with sales is twofold. Number 1, shut up and listen. So my golden piece of advice for you as a negotiation tactic is strategic silence, especially, oh my God, I just saw this guy like 2 weeks ago, and he's just a horrible negotiator, but he thinks he's all that, Mr. Slick. The thing of it is you could be quiet and nod and ask a follow-on question, and he'll hang himself with his own rope. Okay, that's what I'm saying. So he throws out kind of a combative statement, and I'm just watching this on the web, kind of monitoring my mentee and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, dude, I would just lead you until you just stepped off that chair, hung yourself, because that is so irritating. And he was on the procurement side. So I would say you guys just use silence strategically before responding to an obnoxious position, engage any kind of heated exchange, any kind of, slick operator. I think I know what I'm doing because I'm going to slam the door. Slam the door. I have had children and I just don't react to slam doors. Okay, so that would be my number one piece of advice. My other piece of bonus advice to you guys in sales. Now, this is not negotiation. This is in the pre-bid when you're bidding on massive projects that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Ask questions and don't let procurement wiggle out. If any procurement person ever answers you with a go back to the proposal, it's in the proposal and you know it's not, they don't know what they're doing. If any procurement person says, oh, well, we were hoping that you would answer that in your proposal, they have no idea what they're doing. If they ghost you and they take 2 weeks and you only have like 3 days left to get a proposal out and they give you a half-baked response, they don't know what they're doing. And prepare accordingly because you could get caught in a not so great relationship. Just saying. Alrighty, folks. Thanks so much. And if you'd like to get any more information about me, my work, or work with me, check out my website down here.